Hey guys, so today I wanted to share with you part 2 of my November TBR, and this is going to be my reading lists for a readathon that's going to be happening this month. So I'll be participating in CRIMEATHON, which is taking place between November 8th and November 21st, and is hosted by 3 lovely ladies. I will leave their videos linked down below. Make sure you go and check it out so you can hear all of the rules and regulations. So we have Daijah from Daijah's Book World, Kat from Kat Chats, and Rain from Brews Binds. So I thought this was a great readathon. I believe it's the first year that they've decided to do this one. And even though it's true crime related, you can fill all of the reading prompts with any genre that you would like. So I thought I would take you through the list of what I have that I'm going to be participating with, and hopefully you guys can get some ideas. So prompt number 1 is watch a true crime show, and for this, of course, I love the old episodes of 48 Hours and Dateline. You can find those here on YouTube if you just do a search. But when I'm looking for something a little bit more Canadian specific, I like to watch Crime Beat, which comes on Global TV, and this is a new TV show that I believe just started earlier this year in 2020. It's in its 2nd season right now. The 2nd season just started. And it comes on Saturday evening, so you can find that on the Global app if you're here in Canada, if you're looking for something that's a little bit more geared towards Canadian true crime cases. Prompt number 2 is to read a book with mixed media, and for this I chose The Night Swim by Megan Golden, and I have this on audiobook. I saw somewhere, I can't remember where, but I saw somewhere that this book is really good if you listen to it on audio because it does have a podcast element within the story. So this follows a true crime podcast host who has become an overnight sensation, and her show actually helped to exonerate an innocent man. So she is doing research for season 3 of her podcast, and it's going to be following a high-profile rape case that involves the daughter of the police chief in the town. So while she's doing her investigation for that, she also starts to find mysterious notes being left that are addressed to her, asking for help, which is really weird because even though she is famous, she's famous for her voice and nobody really knows who she is or what she looks like. So this really intrigued me. I'm really into murder mysteries right now, and I thought this one would fit in just perfectly. So prompt number 3 is to read a book with red on the cover, and for this one I chose Catch and Kill by Ronan Farrow. I've been planning on reading this for almost a year now, and I thought this was the perfect opportunity to finally sneak it into my TBR. So of course this book has to do with the investigation that Ronan Farrow and his colleagues did into high-profile sexual predators that were being covered up, and namely the high-profile case into Harvey Weinstein that was being covered up at the time. So apparently this book is a real page-turner, and I've been excited to read it for a while. It is nonfiction. I usually am a fiction reader, but I do read nonfiction from time to time, and again, I thought this was the perfect time to fit this one into my TBR. And the next prompt is to read a book by an author of color, which right now is really important that we try to diversify our reading, and for this I picked Monday's Not Coming by Tiffany D. Jackson, and I'm a little bit worried about going into this book because I've heard that it's quite upsetting and it's a little bit devastating, but I am still intrigued by it, and it definitely goes in with my love of true crime. So this follows a girl named Claudia whose best friend Monday hasn't shown up for school. So when she hasn't shown up for 1 day and then 2 days and then into the following week, and nobody seems to really notice or care, she starts to look into it herself. She starts asking around. Nobody has seen Monday, and again, and most importantly, nobody seems to really care. So this follows Claudia's journey in trying to figure out where Monday is and what exactly happened. And the way this book has been described is it kind of starts out as middle grade, and then it goes to YA, and then it's full out adult by the end. So I really am excited to get into that story arc and find out if this book is going to live up to the hype, because I have heard about it quite a bit. So that is Monday's Not Coming by Tiffany D. Jackson. So the next prompt is to read the group book, which is American Predator by Maureen Callahan. And this is a look into the serial murders committed by Israel Keyes, who, if you don't know, is quite a monster. I haven't done a deep dive into him before, but I'm hoping that I can fit the ebook into my TBR this month and follow along with this group book. And this is a good example of something where you can double up on the prompt. So there's no rule against against using one book for several prompts. So if you read this book, you will actually knock out 3 of the prompts. So that's a really good thing. If you don't have the time to get to too many books, then you can still knock out the prompts with books that have crossovers. So the next prompt is to participate in the reading sprints, and for this I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to participate in the reading sprints or not. It depends on how busy I am with work and everything, but if you want to hear more about the reading sprints, please make sure you go out and check out the other girls' channels. They will have the Twitter account and everything there for how you can participate in the reading sprints. So the next prompt is to read a book with a disappearance, and for this one, this is going to be my first one that I'm going to double up on the prompts. So I'm also going to use Monday's Not Coming for this one as well. I believe the Night Swim will actually fit into this one also. So that's the only one here that I have with a double prompt. So the next prompt is to listen to a true crime podcast, and I'm excited to share with you a couple of suggestions that I have of really great true crime podcasts that I've listened to, some of them for over a long period of time and some of them that I've just discovered this year. So true crime podcasts is something that I typically listen to when I'm at work, and so I go through quite a lot of them. So the first one I have to share is Crime Beat, and if you remember from one of the other prompts, this is also a TV show. So the podcast is hosted by Nancy Hixt, who is a crime journalist here in Calgary, Alberta, and her cases typically revolve around things that have happened in Alberta specifically. So of course this was really interesting to me, and it's really great that her podcast actually got so popular that it got picked up for a TV show. So if you want something that's a little bit more skewed to Canadian cases, specifically Alberta, Crime Beat is a really great one. The other one that's specifically Canadian is the Canadian True Crime Podcast, and this one is hosted by a really lovely girl named Christy, and she has a really nice voice, and her cases span all over Canada, not just a specific province. So this is one that I've been listening to for quite some time. And then there's a couple of investigative podcast series that I've been listening to. So instead of it having a case per episode, it kind of has an entire season that is a deep dive into one specific crime. So the first one for this I have is season 1 of Uncover, and this is a Canadian podcast, but it follows the cult NXIVM, which was founded by Keith Raniere. And if you've heard recently, Keith Raniere was actually sentenced to 120 years in jail for his participation in this cult and what he did to the young women. So this one is a really great one if you're interested in any sort of cults or NXIVM specifically. The next one that I really enjoyed is called Hunting Warhead, and this one is an investigative podcast into police efforts to take down a ring of child predators, and they were distributing child abuse images. So this podcast specifically is a very hard listen, and obviously all of these are 18 plus, but this one specifically is really hard to listen to, but the case itself is really important, and it's just really flabbergasting to hear how these guys managed to do what they do and what the police had to do to take them down. So that is Hunting Warhead, and again, if you can handle that sort of content, it's a really great investigative podcast to listen to. The other 2 podcasts I have to recommend have to do with high profile cases. So the first one is The Mysterious Mr. Epstein. This was put out by Wondery. So this one of course revolves around the case of Jeffrey Epstein, how he got away with his crimes for so long, how he managed to get a sweetheart deal with the first time that he was convicted, and how he was finally brought down in the end. So this one was really great. I believe it was also just put out this year, and I actually listened to it twice because I just really enjoyed it. And the last one is Chasing Cosby, and of course this one is into the case of Bill Cosby. I really enjoyed this one as well, and just to let you guys know, there is a book of the same name that would also fit into several of the prompts for this readathon. And the last prompt is to read a book by a female author, and for this one I have The Broken Girls by Simone St. James. So this one I actually featured in part 1 of my TBR as well, and I thought it would also fit in really well with this readathon. So if you didn't see part 1 of my TBR, this has a split time timeline, and it has to do with a boarding school for girls. So there are events happening in 1950 and events that are happening in 2014. So the boarding school is called Idlewild, and it's apparently haunted. There's a murder and a disappearance. So this one would actually fit in several of the prompts as well. So if I don't get to one of the other books, I can definitely double up this one for a couple of the other prompts. I have heard a little bit about this book. It hasn't had stellar reviews. People have said it's just okay. So this book definitely appeals to two of my passions. The first one, of course, being the paranormal, and the second one being true crime. So I thought this one would fit in great with this readathon as well. So that's everything for the prompts for this readathon. Again, that is CRIMEATHON, and it takes place between November 8th and November 21st. Let me know down below in the comments if you are going to participate in this readathon as well, and let me know what you're planning on reading. But that's everything I have for you today, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, stay spooky. Bye!